Hello everyone, my name is CurryShot, and for those of you who do not know who I am a professional coach in the esports scene for nearly 3 years now, as well as being a multi-season top 500 player in every single role. In today's video, I want to talk about MVP space versus 7 and how I feel their struggling on this first point defense was a major contributing factor to their loss versus 7 in this map. So the first thing I really want to look at is the team composition that MVP Space ran with the Orisa, Diva, Junkrat, Widow, Mercy, Zen. It's a pretty standard team composition, and honestly, that's not the problem, right? It wasn't team composition problem and why they played it, but rather the setup and how they set up these team compositions. So the giant red flag for me, as you will see in this little still that we have right now, is that the DPS are playing the same exact angle versus goats. Again, it's really important to consider the setup because of the other compositions you're used to playing versus. So in Korean contenders, to give you guys a little bit of context, you won't really see that 3-2-1 setup that you saw in Overwatch League with the Orisa Hawk Diva, double sniper, and then single support Mercy. So you won't really see that too much. What you'll see is either goats or standard dive. Okay, so that's really what the Korean contenders teams are used to seeing. So that's really what they're playing around, right? But this setup right here is telling me that it's inefficient versus goats and it's inefficient versus dive, because this is a really easy dive since Widow won't have any efficiency. This is not Horizon Lunar Colony, right? There's a very short distance from the dive up to this top high ground, right? And it doesn't have any real value versus goats, as she won't have a nice sight line to the back line and really won't have any efficiency there. Okay, so we're gonna pull up Metabellum versus Blossom, because I feel like Happy and Metabellum really understood how to set up their Widow in accordance to their Junkrat relative to their team, and we're gonna take a look on the optimal way to set up your Widow in this composition and how I feel MVP Space should have played this map. So here it is. So okay, let me just say, this is a VOD review of a VOD review. My face won't be there in the contenders streams, hopefully not, but just ignore that for now, okay guys? It's important to focus here. So here's Happy on his Widow. The first thing I want you to notice is his sideline relative to his team, right? So this is his team right here, and relative to the other Widow as well, other potential Widow, right? Because you also have to consider the other potential Widow, right? So if you look at the sight lines right here, he's really safe. The other Widow can't really do anything to him, so all he has to focus on is the counter dive and any type of point pressure that's being thrown their way. Okay, so what I mean by point pressure is usually how teams play around this right here is they will send a tracer maybe behind point. Blossom does it differently this way, but I think this is the more optimal way to do it, is they'll send a tracer on point to try to get a point pressure, so that way Diva has to rotate over and deal with this tracer. And again, it's very imperative that when she does deal with Tracer, she doesn't fly over there. She just drops simply, doesn't panic, just drops. Saves her booster so she can deal with any counter dive when she needs to go, and then deal with Tracer with a Mercy tether. What I mean by Mercy tether is basically she can go ahead and either heal her through windows or heal her right here without leaving her team. Okay, that's usually how you deal with it. The other option, which is also good, is sending your Tracer actually to kind of try to deal with the Widow and try to force grapple out and mess with her that way, and then pressure point by making her rotate. So that's a good option as well. But these are really the two options that teams use with flankers. Now what Blossom does is they use their main tank here, and he just kind of jumps to point and she tries to get point pressure that way to have somebody rotate. This is a lot more risky way, since your jump cooldown will be on cooldown, right? So you're more susceptible to dying, right? So again, now let's go ahead and talk about this just to recap. So the reason why this is a superior positioning for the Widow is because of the sightlines relative to the enemy Widow. She's rather safe, as well as forcing the Widow to actually have no targets to kill, since she can't circumvent the shield. She's gonna have to be shooting straight into here, and it keeps your teammates relatively safe. Now let's talk about the efficiency versus goats. All right, so when you're playing versus goats, it's really important to have a perpendicular sightline, and we're going to talk about the importance of why the perpendicular sightline is just crucial. So I want you to imagine a giant Congo line when thinking about goats, right? So here we go. So think about Ryan in the front, Zarya, Diva, Brig, Lucio, and then Moira, right? So with a perpendicular sightline, their Ryan's not going to choose to shield you over the rest of the 5 players on the team, right? There's a Junkrat, you know what I mean? And as well as 4 other players, right? So he's going to have his shield turned that way, right? This makes the backline really vulnerable, okay? So think about Moira, Lucio, Brig, right? These are the heroes that you can one-shot as Widow, and Moira is the #1 target in this comp, because without Moira, the AoE healing, the Goat's composition withers and dies, alright? So #1 target should be Moira in terms of priority, and you'll have a relatively clean shot here. Now let's say you don't hit your shots here. The #1 thing, you know, outside of this is also to rotate your Widow, right? So then Widow would take a more aggressive angle and then rotate main up here, even though she's on D, and then she'd have a clear sightline 2-point like this, all right? It's really important to rotate your Widow aggressively when there's no threat to her, okay? So yeah, we talked about perpendicular sightline. We talked about the efficiency versus goats and how to play versus goats. And versus dive, we can go ahead and play it out here. Oh wait, this is my point of view actually. So I'm gonna try to skip it a bit. I don't think... Nah, you won't actually really get to see the efficiency there, unfortunately. But the idea still stands. So now what you will get to see is the adaptation here from Atun, okay? So as you can see, they're going to wither and fall here. I'm going to pause the video right here. So this right here is like the #1 Widow spot. Most people will always go here in Korean contenders. So you'll see in the second round, you'll see Atun like just hard scoping that spot, even though Bazi doesn't actually go there second time around. But right off the bat, you'll see Undyne die right there. And you'll see Atun right here, okay? So I want you to look at the amount of impact Atun actually has here, which is next to none, right? He goes ahead, gets 1 clip by Adora here, since he's in this spot right here. So again, there's nothing, like, what can he do here? What can he do down here, right? This is the only reason the dive works, because it's basically playing like, and this is not an insult, but it is kind of like a 5v6 because of his positioning and his impact on this fight. All right, so he shouldn't be playing with his team right in this scenario, okay? So right there, they lose a point. Now let's go look at the second adaptation and how they played next time. So here he is, hard scoping on that spot, and I'm gonna go ahead and pause. So this is the adaptation he makes. It goes from here to here. This is the game changer right here. I don't think this solves anything, and this is me being nice about it, because it doesn't solve anything. This is not the game changer. This is not the positioning mistake that Atun has been making throughout the game. So again, I'm gonna sound redundant here, but the perpendicular angle relative to his team is the type of angle that he should take. Widow should not be playing with the rest of her team on this map, because he doesn't actually get anything done, as it's really easy to dive the rest of his team. Now let's go ahead and play this out. This is going to be my last example, because I don't want to beat the dead horse. But as you can see, Winston jumps right to her, puts a bubble on her, and just ignores her, because she's not able to do anything, while Bazi can just go ahead and kill the rest of the team, since he has the angle to deal with the rest, since a lot of the space was created by the Winston, since he was not pressured at all. Okay, so that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, what you guys would like to see next. This video was all about the Widow angles and the simple solution that MVP Space has to make if they choose to play this comp again in the rest of their contenders games. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.